Okay, hi, welcome to Childcare Challenges podcast and Dilemma in Daycare. Today, we're going to dive into the challenge that you face in your job and everything that you do for the community, for the children, and, to bring it together. My name is Tashieanna O'Connor, as you can see, and have a lovely guest. Go ahead, take it over.
Hi, my name is Brigette Brantley, also known as Bree Brantley. I am the founder of the nonprofit organization, the People's Assembly NYC, born out of the George Floyd protest movement. We are an organization empowering youth and communities to be change agents, in our community, and to basically adhere to the challenges that we face in the Bronx currently, and then also being able to change the narrative as well.
Okay. And you said that the organization that was born out of the George Floyd and incident, the crime, I would say, that take place, right? Because they murder him, right?
Yes.
What causes you? What drives you? I know for me, what affects me is when he called out for mommy, for his mom.
Yes.
And it's like he summoned, I don't care what color they were, he summoned every mother. Whoa.
It was just like a mom connection. For me was when I went viral. I was participating in the summer of protests, the peaceful protests that were happening throughout the city. And I was stopped by the late, great Rochelle Boone, who was a news anchor doing street interviews during the protest. And she stopped me and we engaged in a conversation. But it was the way she stopped me. It was like, Queen, I see you and I know you have something to say. And my interview went viral. I had over 20 million views on YouTube. I was able to raise over 60,000 in a GoFundMe to be able to take that same money and reallocate it to my community, where I collaborated with my brothers to do a back to school drive that they do every year. I was able to take community members down to the March on Washington. And I believe it was the 56th anniversary at the time. So being able to take Bronx residents outside of the city for a day of community action, and then being able to take part of history that took place 56 years ago. So that's how the People's Assembly started. My friends and family can always say I've always been politically aware. My grandmother was politically aware. So it's something that's, I would say, embedded in my DNA. So I said to myself, like, now that I have this attention, I'm going to take this attention and use it for good. And I'm going to continue the work. I wasn't going to let this just be a one moment of me being viral and then that's it. It's like, no, God gave me this power to be a agent of change, take it and run with it. And I think what also pushed me was that same year, at the top of that month, I had lost my grandmother. And I always tell my mom this too sometimes. Like when my mom told me she passed, I felt like the spirit of my grandmother's soul into my body, or like transform me into something, because my drive and my ambition changed that year. And my mom was like, well, you and your grandma was always close. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I felt that energy come through me. And I'm just like, all right, grandma, just guide me through it. So that's how DPA was brought about. And I'm grateful for the support that we have gotten so far with our events, with us just being a community resource base for other organizations and being able to partner with other local Bronx organizations as well.
Okay, that's great. That's great. While serving the community, what are some of the challenges that you face while doing so?
I would say a challenge that I currently face is be consistent with being able to give more resources or host more community engagement events, because right now we are like a small grassroots. So we literally operate on the support of community members donating to us, or me, and some people think it's crazy, me working two jobs and being able to fund my own nonprofit. We have applied for different grants, the donations. They have their moments where they're consistent, they're coming in. And what I hold true to myself is whether I have the donations or not, whatever I need to get done for my community is going to get done. If I have to partner with somebody, if I have to do outreach, if I have to, send emails, I'm going to do that. But I think that would be the one of the most challenges. But also another challenge that I feel like I'm starting to realize, especially with DPA turning 5 this year, is making sure like I have a team. A lot of the work is done by me. So it's me being the social media, it's me doing content, it's me doing the interviews. But I would love to have like a team of volunteers that I can hopefully build GPA to be on a larger scale. So that way it's more so of me being the founder and still just being able to navigate with my team. Another challenge would be is just having a space. Right now, I'm grateful for my school who lets me host certain community events because it builds the student engagement with the students that I serve as an educator, but it also lets my community know like, hey, there's a new school building here and you can host a space here. So my school, back in November, I hosted something called Bronx Giving where I collaborated with Golden Crust and they provided meals and food local Harlem restaurant or Corner Lounge. I always say Cornerstone, but Corner Lounge Bistro who provided like turkeys. So it's all about being able to reach out to the places that I support frequently. And I think like with my school being able to hold that space, we each student was able to take home about 5 meals each. So that was your rice and peas, your curry chicken, big chicken, patties, salads, sodas. And they had like little Tupperware containers because I'm like, some of them may not have access to a stove, but at least if it's in a Tupperware container, they could warm it up in the microwave. And we had so much food left. My seniors that Monday had like a senior potluck. So I was able to give another tray of rice to my students. And one of my kids is like, Miss Brantley, I was just talking to my friend about Golden Crust Jamaican beef patties, and you brought a whole tray. And I said, yes, please enjoy. So just like those small moments lets me know that, yes, I'm going through these other challenges, but the work that's coming out of it and the reactions from my students motivates me to push through those challenges as well.
That's great. And I'm going to ask you because we need people like you, more people like you. And I hope this organization that you built just is not just stuff in the Bronx, right? I would like to see statewide.
Mm, I'm-
Statewide.
yes. And that's like that's my ultimate goal right there.
It's not every day you wake up and see someone doing what you do. And the passion that behind your speech, and you can see the passion that you have, that you generally love what you're doing and serving the
Yes.
community, right? And I would like to see this go statewide. So I need you before we end. Let's let them know if someone want to donate and
Mhm.
that like you're looking for a volunteer. How can they be of help towards you? And if you have a website, anywhere they can get in contact with you, and how if they want to do like an interview with you, how they could get in contact with you, right?
Okay.
As
Yes.
far as that community go, how I know earlier we were talking briefly. You said about holding legislative accountable,
Hmm.
right? So can you go into a little?
Yeah. So one thing about me, I know that elected officials has a lot on our plates. We've seen the different political climates. And this is not to say that our elected officials are not doing enough, but I would love if they had more opportunities for constituents to do things like explore, a day in Albany, right? Or a lot of the elected officials, they have like these different conferences that comes up where, financially some of the constituents can't afford to pay for it. We do have elected officials who do let's say if there's a rally happening in Albany that do offer buses to go up there, which is great, but also making sure that we're not only seeing you when it's an election year. We're not only seeing you when it's a back to school drive or it's Christmas or it's Thanksgiving, because my goal this spring is to do something called a spring back. Because what I've realized, especially as an educator, is parents only buy school supplies for August and September. And then from that, it's Miss. I hear from December to about March, Miss Brantley, I need a pen. Miss Brantley, I need a pencil. Miss Brantley, I need a folder. Miss Brantley, I need a notebook. But I also know financially the accessibility, it's hard. Things are expensive. So my goal is to try to get some of like Staples to donate some school supplies for scholars. So we have testing that comes up in April. So that's the standard based testing. Then we have regents for the high school students in June, and just making sure they have like the school supplies that they need, especially for our seniors who may be going away to college, who may not be thinking about pencils and pens because they want to decorate their dorm room, right? So just making sure that parents can still access some different educational resources in the spring, because there's so many other things that are happening education wise, and activities and workshops and parenting workshops and mental health workshops that are happening, but they don't know about it unless there's like a big event. So I figured if I do a back to school drive in August, like I normally do, and do one in the spring, that sets the tone for August. So parents know, like, okay, the People's Assembly is hosting a spring break. Maybe I can start to gather some school supplies. So that way I'm not forced to spend so much money in August on school supplies. And I think partnering with our elected officials would be a great opportunity, because they do have access probably to other resources that I may not have access to. And I think like we need them with us in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like we have congestion pricing that has just happened. And I think it's ridiculous that we now have to pay to get around in our city.
What?
When if you go below 66th Street, $9. And
Right.
then they do have like congestion relief fares, but it's like there was a man on the news the other day that lives on the line, and he gets charged the toll every time he moves his car for alternate side parking. There's
Wow.
another man who lives around the corner,
Mhm.
and his children live up the block and around the corner, and he has to pay a toll every day just to go up the block and around the corner to go pick up his children from school, to go back down. So he's paying the toll twice.
Right.
So it's just like, I think that our elected officials need to hold even not like local assembly need to hold each other a little bit more accountable, because it is affecting our community, where it's to the point where we cannot live in New York City. And you don't want us to leave. You don't need that mass exodus of people leaving New York City. But if you can't afford to live here, or businesses can't afford to survive because now their delivery trucks has to go through that toll to get, the products here. So now you have prices increases in the neighborhood. Businesses are not able to stay afloat. So I think when I say by holding our elected officials accountable is just please hear our voices and know that we are feeling it. And granted, everyone is feeling it in different ways, but it's like I see it in the Bronx, where the line for the food pantry line, when and I could use 2020 for example. No, let's say 2019. The lines would be long,
Right.
normal. Now the food pantry lines are now wrapping around the block, not once, not twice, but now 3 times. So there is, especially in the Bronx, where there's a food insecurity because there's more fast food restaurants in my neighborhood than there is accessibility to fresh produce. So you're forcing people to spend these monies in these fast food restaurants, and we have food pantries that are not able to provide so much because the need is so grand. So I think, like, again, going back to holding our elected officials accountable is just making sure that the things that you said that you were going to do for this community, you stand on it. Don't try to say, well, this is this and this is that. No, if these are the things that your constituents voted on, we would like to see those things. And we would like to be able to, be able to have communication with you. I know some elected officials who have strong communication, where I can send them an email today. And by Monday morning, I'm getting a response. And then I have some elected officials where they're busy, and I totally understand that, but it's like where I have to constantly follow up. So it's a mix between both. But if everyone can just be on one accord and just hear the needs of the constituents and understand that this is their borough, and we're asking you to make sure that the things that we need to be put in place be put in place, because it's no way that we're paying $275 for the train, but our safety is not really guaranteed, right? You can put the police officers on the train, but we still have a lack of support for our mental health. That
Mm.
we don't have either the manpower or the resources for our mental health. And it's now starting to show up more after the pandemic. So these are people who are probably suffered during the pandemic, and now post pandemic, it's I don't want to say egregious because that's not a word I want to use, but it's now showing up in so many different forms where I personally don't take public transportation. If I do, I'm taking the express bus
Mm.
because I know that for a fact. Yes, I'm paying $6, but I am safe on the express bus. Yes, I'll be in traffic, but it's almost like I know that certain people won't be on this type of express bus, but still want to make sure people still have accessibility to the bus. But I shouldn't have to alternate my lifestyle in a city that's supposed to keep me safe, where I pay my hard on tax dollars to make sure that I'm safe as well.
Wow. And you, as an educator, when parents come to you and describing and discussing all these things, this issue that they face and explains to you that, listen, I just can't do it. How do you handle those parents? How do you comfort those parents?
I always tell my parents, like, I hear you. And I tell them all the time, please don't be confused that because my title as a teacher, I am not going through the same thing you are going through. I have a 12-year-old who eats like he's 21. You get what I'm saying? And food is expensive. And unfortunately, because I'm a teacher, right? Me going to a food pantry, I may not have the accessibility because the mindset of us like, well, you're a teacher, you make money, you shouldn't be struggling. And it's like, no, if
Yeah.
you factor in my salary, the amount of money I spend in my classroom, the amount of money I spend outside of my classroom to provide for my classroom, the amount of money that, sometimes don't get reimbursed to me. But I know that my students need and they deserve a right to a proper education and the resource that they may be. You factor in the different teacher exams that teachers have to take that are $122. Some of the tests go up to about $250 so they can elevate to make a little bit more. But the more you make, the more you still have to pay back into your classroom. So
Yeah.
with parents, I always try to tell them, like, we're in this together. And the same way I'm going to find the resources for me is the same way I'm going to find the resources for you. I had a parent who, before Thanksgiving, public assistance cut off her food stamps. It was already too late for the food pantries. The turkey giveaways had already happened. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do a call to action. And I went on social media and I said, I have a family who needs food for Thanksgiving, at least to get them through the New Year's. And I have people saying, like, well, I can send an Instacart, I can get this for them. And I'm like, do they need fresh produce? I had a friend who worked in a food bank and they were getting ready to give away like the different onions and peppers to another church, but they had extras. They were able to Uber it them to my parent, and my parent called me. She said, Ms. Brantley, I cannot fit nothing in my fridge. I said, do you need me to send more stuff? She said, Ms. Brantley, my cabinets are so full.
What I said earlier, power. When we comes together, we can move mountains.
And she was like, she has a security person. And she said, the doorman keeps getting upset because the bell keeps ringing. He keeps having to open the door. She said she had to go down with her shopping cart 2 times. And I said, you know what? That's power. And I said, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great Christmas and a great New Year's. And when my student came back, he said, Ms. Brantley, can I talk to you? I said, sure. And we came upstairs to my classroom. And it's for some reason in my school, I'm like the mom. So everybody wants to be in so it could be my time for my lunch. And my students is like, okay, no, it's time for us. So we're going to sit with you during your lunch. And I'm like, okay. And 9 times out of 10, like if I do order something, I always make sure I order so I can share out with my student. Even if it's a small lunch special, I'm going to make sure whoever's in here, we all going to eat together.
Okay.
He comes in, he said, man, my mom was just cooking everything. I said, well, tell me what you have for Thanksgiving. He said, we had penne, we had turkey, we had rice. I said, okay. He said, and then Christmas, she made pastelon. And he was just so joy. And I could see the difference in his behavior. And that was a scholar that struggled with being motivated.
Uh-huh.
But that one moment Mind you, this is a former student of mine. So it's like, I tell my students all the time, like, no matter how far I go, I'm always going to be that beacon of light. So while y'all all out in the ocean traveling and figuring out life, I'm still going to be that light that's going to guide you where you need to go. And if you need to stop at the lighthouse for a little, quick check in and you need some help and support, I can be that for you. So like I said, like just being able to be that force and like saying like, I'm going to ask if I can't get it, somebody's going to connect me to somebody that's going to get it for me so I can make sure that my student has what they need. So my parents have what they need. Even now, I was speaking with a couple of friends about, with the immigration situation, they are fellow educators too. And schools are now coming up with a plan. And I'm like, we maybe need to get immigration services and maybe have like a representative in our school building to be of support to those parents who may be scared to take their kids to and from school.
I'm happy that you touched on that. Because I was interviewing a young man earlier before you, and like I asked him the same thing I'm going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
What you foresee this election, the next 4 years, how do you see immigrants? I'm an immigrant myself. I'm sure I'm Jamaican. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
when you say that the Portland Trust Party, you say, yeah, no, I don't think
Yes.
the Portland Trust Party. I'm like, yeah, she go. She already know she won away.
Thank you.
I'm like, you know what? You already know Jamaican. We always say, because we know what it's like not to have anything. So we try our best to give.
Yep.
Children coming from Jamaica, it's just a lot that we're trying to give. But how do you see this election, our next 4 years? When I think about it, it hurts so much for our undocumented parents and children.
Mm-hmm.
I did a street interview of people that are not documented, and the fear in their voice.
Yes. And that's for me. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Lean on Me
Mhm.
with Morgan Freeman.
Yeah,
I told my kids, I showed them the clip. I said, that's going to be Miss Brantley. That is going to be Miss Brantley on the walkie-talkie telling them to lock the doors and not to let them in. I said, I tell them all the time, I said, they're going to have, and I said, and if they hold, like, let's say they start to say, like, if you don't tell, we're going to hold you accountable. I am not my ancestors. I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. And I'm so sorry if my ancestors can go through being dogs,
hmm
holes, having food thrown on them for sit-ins. I'm going to do the same for the same people that wanted the opportunity. The difference is my people didn't ask to be brought here. We were kidnapped.
Yep, yep.
Saying we have young people who want to come here and make a difference. And for some reason, there's an allure about America that says that they can get that. And it's like, how dare you tell people when we have a Statue of Liberty that says, Ellis Island, that says, give me your tired and your poor. And now you're telling me you do not want the tired and the poor? What was the purpose? And some people, my friends tell me this all the time. Like, they like, oh, you should take your kids to Ellis Island. And I said, sometimes I tell them, I said, they can go on their own to experience, but that's not how our people got here.
Yeah,
So they cannot relate. They can relate to the experience of what it means to be an immigrant, but we wasn't brought by no Ellis Island. We were not welcomed with open arms. We were welcomed with chains and whips and fields. So when it comes down to this immigration policy, I'm sorry, if I got to be an abolitionist for the migrants, so be it. If it means I have to make sure that I'm keeping my migrants safe. And we have this like, oh, well, the migrants are taking this and they're taking that. These opportunities been sitting here. And what I say about it, these opportunities are sitting here in front of our faces, and we're choosing not to take these opportunities. And as people that come from my grandmother coming from the South, coming up to New York and taking care of her 4 kids, doing the jobs that people don't want to do, so be it. 'Cause at the end of the day, I got mouths to feed. So if it means I'm cleaning up a school building, if it means that I'm taking out the trash, if it means that I'm delivering fruit, if it means I'm selling fruit, the goal is to provide an access for my family to change the narrative so that way I can say that we belonged here, we worked hard, and no one is going to take that from me. And I feel like a status, a little piece of paper that determines whether you're a citizen or not is beyond me. It's beyond me. So it's like, when I talk to my parents, I'm like, hey, these are the different services you need to reach out to. I've even talked to my principal about us hosting like a resource night for our parents, and letting them know these are the things that we're going to be taking care of, or these are the places that you can go, or these are the people you need to speak to. And even having some of our electeds who identify with the migrants, having them advertise some of their, resource events in our schools, or even coming to our school to speak to our parents so they know that we got you. And I tell my students, I said, my main goal is for you to walk across that stage in June. Whether you're a senior now, whether you're a freshman now, whether you're a sophomore, that's my goal. And I'd be, excuse my language, damned if I let anybody tell me that this child does not deserve a right to education or doesn't deserve the right to be on this land.
Yeah.
That didn't belong to any of us in the first place. But no one is ready for that kind of conversation.
Uh-huh. Earlier you said you're a history teacher, and I share with you, and I still love the passion of
Yes.
history. I'm telling you, it's like you said, a light in those children's life. But you're not only a light in those children's life. Anyone that come in contact with you, because I'm in contact with you, and I could feel it in my spirit, that passion, that light, that drive, that love, that God, I just can't describe the radiation I felt from your speech and how you are, right? How do you let children communicate, learn, and love share the same passion that you share in history? How do you do that with them?
Um, I wish I could send you a video of me in the class. What did my student said to me the other day? She said, Miss Brantley, I fell asleep in your class. And she said, I still heard you and I got the visual of what you were saying. She
Mm,
said, the fact that I can close my eyes and see what you're teaching, she said, I've never experienced that from any teacher. I
mm-hmm.
also have the experience of living through it, right? So it's when I teach history, I tell them all the time, I'm not teaching his story. I'm teaching our story from our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it really happened. They told y'all Christopher Columbus was a great person and he sailed the ocean blue in 1492. Wrong. He came from a broke family and Spain was in competition with another country. And he just so happened to get lost and find something that was already there. And the kids was like, oh, I said, yeah. So please don't think that he found it. And it's like connecting with real life experiences. I'm like, imagine on social media and you in America, right? And you are a Native American and you see an alert that some man discovered the land that you was going to be on. You're going to feel some type of way. And then you welcomed him with open arms. Y'all done took selfies. And now all of a sudden he telling you you belong to him. And the kids was like, see, miss, I would have flagged his page. I said, see, you would have flagged his page, but they're connecting social media with the history. Like,
Right.
imagine sitting there watching on your feed saying, yeah, we now, this is the new world. And you looking with your friends like, this ain't new.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is here. It's like building that ambition. Like I play music. Like we just went over World War I and I played I always forget his last name. I know his first name is Steve. The war song, What Is It Good For? And like I had like the Call of Duty helicopters playing in the background. And my kids are like, what's going on? I said, all right, privates, line up. I got some history to teach you. And they're looking at me like, what is going on? But you have some kids like coming in like, all right, Miss Brantley, like just the joy of like before it was a class that they didn't want to go. Now you hear them like running in the hallway. Like, I don't want to be late. I need the 3 extra points. So I give them points. If they're on time, if the whole class is on time, I give them 3 extra points credit. And you got to hear them in the hallway like, yo, what you talking in the hallway for? Let's go. I need these 3 points. I forgot to do my homework. So they're just running in the hallways. And I'm just sitting there like, yes, children, love the history. Come in. Let me enlighten you. Let me just put a little spark. And even I did an activity during November where we had kids was like, oh, I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting for Trump. And I said, oh, okay. Well, let me give you some background and let me give you some real history of what Project 2025 was. And when it came up to the point of where they were going to dismantle the Board of Education. My student, because I did activity where I let them pick whether it was Kamala and Joe, or Joe and Kamala, or Donald Trump and his vice president pick. So a lot of my boys went to Donald Trump. They like, oh, he gave us the money, this, that, and the third. I said, if you break that down, that $1,200, and how long it was supposed to last, that's 75 cents a day. So that means you telling me your values, your principles is worth 75 cents a day. They was like, oh, but he said he's going to do this, he's going to do that. I said, okay. I played the video with Project 2025, and it was bred by young Black men. So my student is very into basketball. He swears he's going to UConn or Duke. When the young man on the video read about dismantling the Board of Education, he said, what that means? I said, you think you're going to Duke, right? I said, that's not about to change. That accessibility, or you thinking you going to college might change. He said, oh, no, miss. Got up and moved his seat. When they talked about women not having the right or their abortion rights, and 4 of the boys got up. He's like, no, my mom is about to have a baby, and this, that, and the third. And, her pregnancy has been complicated. And, the doctors were saying like she has to be on bed rest. I said, imagine them telling her now she doesn't have accessibility to proper health care for your baby brother or sister. He's like, oh, no, miss. I watched 6 boys get up and move to the other side based on just hearing about what the things were. And I'm like, sometimes you have to read and not just go by what's on social media. Fast forward, Donald Trump gets elected. The kids come back. They was like, miss, did you hear that he said he lied about lowering the groceries? I said, yeah. I said, you really thought he was going? He's like, miss, he not standing on business. He not standing on business. My famous quote that I'm known for going viral is, what you thought was going to happen? I said, what you thought was going to happen? I said, this man songed and danced us for what he wanted. And I said, now it's time for us to take action. It's now time for you to come to school on time, get your education, know who your elected officials are, know where resources are, because we have the ability to change it no matter what it is. As far as the next 4 years, I just pray that as a community and as a culture, we unite, because there is going to be an attack on us as a people, whether you are Black, poor, LGBTQ, disabled. We're now going to be penalized for these things that we are born with or have with us. So I just hope for the next 4 years that there is some people in Congress at the highest government level, so our senators and House speakers, really think about the needs of the constituents. Whether you like what he says or not, but at the end of the day, people's livelihoods is at stake. And no one should have to worry about what the next 4 years should look like. You get what I'm saying? Like, we have to reimagine things. Like, things that worked back in the 1960s and 1980s are not the same. I never thought in my 35 years, because I'll be 35 on the 26th.
Oh, you're 21. What you talking about?
I know, right? Man, listen, 21. Oh, but I never thought in my 35 years, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, will give a president immunity for a crime. And it's just like, I don't want to hear when people are committing crimes. It's like, nah, y'all let this man steal money, cause an insurrection. And y'all say, oh no, it's okay, slap on the wrist. What? But let it have been me, personally, me. Honey, that they threw me under the bus and probably parked the bus again. You get what I'm saying? So I think for the next 4 years, it's just, we need to be vigilant. We need to be aware. And I know this sounds crazy. We need to read proper sources. We need to have these uncomfortable conversations that can lead to positive outcomes. That's what we need for the next 4 years.
Okay, that's what we need.
I'm so sorry.
So, Tyler, you don't understand how what you send, the information, the radiation, and when anyone listens to this, I'm telling you, they're gonna feel what I'm feeling. Okay, the passion behind everything, the love for humanity that you have, it's unspeakable. It's just breathtaking. because it's not every day you wake up and find someone that loves humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You do, right? So there's no need to apologize for your passion.
Yes,
Don't
ma'am.
apologize for the love of what you do. Like I'm a child daycare provider. I advocate for my parents. I advocate for my kids. I show up at the school. If you're a teacher not doing what you have to do for those kids, that's what you're going to see. That's what
Mhm.
I'm going to say. Miss T, I need you here. Guess who's going to be there? Miss T, you know what school
Yep.
called me? Mama Bear.
Yep. Even with my interactions with my students, like they'll sometimes come in, they be like, Mom. And I'll be like, what? They be like, oh, you know what I mean, Miss B. And I'm like, okay. But like one of my parents, she says, like, my son comes home every day and he brags about you. I have a student, he struggles. He's easily influenced by his friends. But every day, fifth period, he comes and gets his work done. And it's that one-on-one time. And even when we have like class discussions, I hear him talking with his peers and I'm like, you're going to share out? He's like, no, miss. I'm like, you probably have the only correct answer right now. And I'm going to need you to lead into that power. So when he had said one of his answers, the kids was like, oh, that's what you meant, Miss B. And I'm like looking at him like, you see? Now you see everybody like erasing or trying to cross out to write the right answer. And I said, and all you did was say one word. And it's like giving him that positive praise, like, yes, Kaden, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for your response. And he's like, this lady is crazy. And that's another thing about my classroom. Like I make them, it's like Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus.
Uh,
When she gets on the bus and takes them on a trip,
uh,
that's what I try to do when it comes to history. It's like, no, I want you to feel that passion that I have. I want you to feel that pain that as a Black woman in America teaching our story, this is something that no one would have thought or even allowed me to do.
yeah. You know what they used to see a black man do it.
Yep. I always ask this question at the beginning of the year. It's like, well, how many Black or brown teachers have you had in your life? That wasn't the dean. That wasn't the gym teacher. That wasn't the office worker. And that wasn't the principal. And
Mm-hmm.
you see kids like, oh my God, I've only had four. Oh my God, I only had two. Oh my God, I only had three. Well, I had three, but then one left came back. And I'm like, but do you see that it's only staying on a single hand?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been in education about 16 years. I have kids that, let's say, are like managers at Target start screaming, Miss B, oh my God, Miss B, let me tag you. Da-da-da-da. And I'll just be sitting there. People in the stores are looking at me like, who is this lady? And they're like, this was my teacher right here. She was no joke. She used to give us snacks. She used to make sure we had this. And it's just like I have to sit there and take it in like, wow.
The effect that you have in these kids' life. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
yeah.
And it's like, it's so weird. I wouldn't say it's weird, but that's like the joy I feel. And I tell people all the time, yes, teachers don't make a lot of money, but you cannot put a price tag on a child's lived experience.
Mhm.
Because I always tell them, I said, you're not going to rap about me and your rap songs talking about my teacher never believed me.
Yeah.
Believe them. You better tell them that I was there every single step of the way. And maybe I could do a cameo in the video with my arms folded and being like,
Like, hey, I'm here. I'm see the teacher?
yep, like I've been here. So I said, please, whatever you do, don't you go rapping saying I wasn't there for you. And they'll start laughing like, no, Miss B, we'll never say that. So it's my passion and drive is just rooted in just being in change, but also being that scholar that my mother would tell you, Bridget is smart, but that mouth. And it wasn't because I was getting in trouble for fighting. It was just I'm challenging my teachers. Why are you telling me this information? What is this information going to do for me? How does this help me be a better citizen in the world? And I will always advocate for my friends. Like I had one of my good friends, I knew she had an IEP. I come from a family of educators, and my teacher refused to make the print larger for her. She could not see. She had like sight issues. And I went off in class one day. I said, how dare you not give her what she needs? I said, you're not in compliance with her IEP. I said, and that's a legal document that you need to honey, the principal came, the assistant principal came. And one of my favorite teachers, he said, mark my words, you're going to be a teacher. I said, I'm not going to be a teacher because The way y'all doing things, I will never do to my students.
And that you become a
And,
great.
and that's what he said. He said, and that drive right there is the reason why you're going to be an educator.
Yeah.
And when I seen them in the bank, like I want to say 16 years later after leaving high school, and I told him I was a teacher, he's like, I told you. He's
Yeah.
like, and he said, I saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. And that quote has stuck with me for my whole life. And I even tell my students that, yes, you may not like Ms. Brantley. Yes, Ms. Brantley is stern, firm, and fair. But you're going to appreciate me when you get older, and you're going to understand what you need to demand for things, how to advocate for things, how to talk to people, and how to get what you need to make sure you're successful.
That's great. That's great. I would love for my children to be in a class with you. And with that said, on the end of note,
Mm-hmm.
I want to find out how, because going back earlier, donation, how can people get in contact with you? Can they find your organization? Do you have a website? Is there anything like if someone want to donate? I myself go back to school drive from every year, right? I would like to help too.
First and foremost, I want to say shout out to Mr. Daniel for having me take on this opportunity. So very much that's one of my good coworkers. Phenomenal man. He has his thing going with my students, which is a Men Leadership Academy, which my boys love so much. So shout out to Mr. Daniel.
Please drop your information and how anyone could get in contact with you, whether they want to donate, elevate the program and the lovely job that you're doing for your community.
Okay, so right now the next initiative that we're raising funds is to take students to the New York State Black, Puerto Rican, Latin, so many acronyms, but to the Black Caucus that is held up in Albany from February 14th to about the 17th. We are trying to raise at least $3,000 so that way we can provide transportation and food for them to go up on February 15th. We do have a PayPal fundraiser that is on our Instagram, which is the People's Assembly NYC. We would love for you guys to follow us, and you can see some of the work that we have done. You can also reach us at email, which is thepeoplesassembly@gmail.com. I will reply as quick as I can. We are also looking for anybody that wants to partner with us. I feel like when building community, and the purpose of the People's Assembly is to assemble the people. So if anyone is interested in collaborating with us or can point us to different resources that can help elevate us, our long-term goal is to start our cotillion program where we'll be teaching young people different life skills and hosting a cotillion ball. That's my main goal in the long-term future. I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. Please make sure you guys like, share, because this platform right here is phenomenal. This was a great conversation. As you guys can see, I am passionate about being an agent of change, and I'm going to continue to show you what you thought was going to happen.
Okay, with that note, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate your time. Always remember, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you need to get in contact with me in any one way, you could do my email. If you have a story to tell, challenges that you're going through, you could always get in contact with me. We do this via Zoom or in person if you're locally in Connecticut.